Good afternoon, gentlemen, and a few of you ladies that may be listening. This is Spiritual Art of War, back at it again with another episode. And this time we're going to talk about the rivalry between black woman and white woman. Okay, and I'm using those terms as just modern terms because, that's just how most people that will be listening to this will understand it. So it is what it is. Now, when you're going into this whole situation with Sydney Sweeney and Beyoncé, it really started as far as recently with the ads coming from American Eagle, and American Eagle had the ad with the blue jeans and talking about jeans as in kind of like a double entendre. The jeans in regards to like what someone inherits, their hereditary, what they get from their parents or their ancestors. And of course, with Sydney Sweeney being, blonde hair, blue eyed, she's an actress. She's very popular among, I guess, the so-called white community. In fact, I just looked it up to see how many followers she has. She has 25 million followers, which is nothing to sneeze at. And a lot of actresses, even some of your big ones, don't have a ton of followers because the timing of when Instagram came in kind of will determine like how many followers you have. So for example, Selena Gomez has a gang of followers, but you got to think about when her fame came in. It came in, right leading into Instagram being a major platform. So and then the age demographic that's going to be on phones and social media apps, it all makes sense why certain people have more followers than others. Especially among females. Now, when you're talking about the Beyoncé ad, what Levi's did with the Beyoncé ad was they capitalized on the controversy surrounding the eugenics undertones of the American Eagle ad. But they knew to do this because it plays into the social media chatter, which is largely the narrative is controlled by a black woman. If you really think about it, on social media, when there's some kind of selective outrage or something that's trending, it's generally kicked off by a black woman, or black woman will ignite it even further. And I've seen this with movements that are even started by men. Well, they will galvanize their female base to kick off, a social media trending topic that's going to lead to more monies in their pocket, because more views, more retweets, more likes is going to lead to more money. And there are certain people that play upon that, okay? Which I'll probably get into in another video on individuals like this. Now, in regards to Sydney Sweeney, she represents the American standard of beauty, okay? Remember the movie American Beauty? I think with Kevin Spacey back in the day? Some of you probably not. Some of you are not even old enough to remember these type of movies. But when you look historically in America, the blonde-haired woman is very popular, right? That's like considered the standard of beauty in America. It just is what it is. And the interesting thing about it is most of these women that become celebrities due to their blondness, or that's part of their image, they're not even natural blondes. You can go back to the likes of Marilyn Monroe and Pamela Anderson, which Pamela Anderson was a Canadian, but white Americans have no problem with her being Canadian and representing what would be considered the blonde bombshell from America. But you got the likes of a Tariq Nasheed whose platform was predicated on Pan-Africanism, but now he's on a whole nother tangent, right? So they'll use these type of people. They'll use the likes of a Sydney Sweeney to represent what they find to be appropriate image. And they knew, there's no doubt about it, that whoever marketed or did that ad, I can guarantee they already predicted the outrage. And they knew the outrage would come from black women who would then push the topic, then get their black male simps to also get on the topic to also have selective outrage. And then the rest is history. And then look at the ecosystem of selective outrage and how it's benefited now Levi's, because they used the so-called black woman who likes to, dye her hair blonde and wear blonde wigs in Beyoncé. And black women would then get the backlash from white women who are being attacked through Sweeney. And then they'll point out, then the white males will come through and defend and say, hey, listen, we're going to hold ground on Sweeney and our woman. And we're going to let it be known how your woman, Beyoncé, that you champion as the beacon of black beauty, is actually trying to be a white woman. How they will accuse her of, skin bleaching and consistently representing herself with blonde hair and not her natural hair. Okay? Because let's be real. The percentage of even white people that are natural blondes is very low. So the amount of black women that will be natural blondes will be even lower. And y'all can run with the whole, black woman can be naturally blonde too with blue eyes, and we the mother of all people. We create every type of human being, so we got the same traits, so that's why she can do this and that. So it ain't us trying to be white, it's just us trying to be us. See, this is the thing. Insecurity among black women is at an all-time high. And it actually got higher because of social media. Because think about it like this, and I'm someone who came before the era of social media, so I can speak on this better than a Gen Z. A Gen Z person will never understand this because they didn't grow up in that era. They can research it and they can look it up and they can listen to people like in our age that knows about the time before smartphones and social media. Back in the 90s, black women only had, they as far as like the times that they would be bombarded with white imagery, it would be if they decided to watch different shows or, buy certain magazines. You would have to go out of your way to either watch it, and yeah, they had commercials, but you got to remember, you had what was something called programming. So you can go get your TV guide, okay? Your TV guidebook to see what shows, and after a while, you kind of knew what shows you were going to watch. So in the 90s, black women already knew they were going to watch Moesha. That's where they're going to get their cues from. They was going to watch, Hanging with Mr. Cooper. They was going to watch The Bill Cosby Show, A Different World, Martin, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, so on and so forth. And that's where they would get their beauty cues from that they would then copy. Same thing with music videos and movies. There was a slew of black movies from the 80s and 90s, especially the late 80s, early 90s. You can start with like Boomerang, Strictly Business, and then go on to what came up with that, the whole Coming to America. You had so many different layers of like movies and shows that they can be inspired by, where they don't have to be bombarded with like so-called white imagery. Social media is a place where you sometimes will run across certain imagery and media that you may not want to see or may not be ready to stomach. And one of those is the imagery of black men with white women, especially black men that are entertainers and athletes with white women or non-black women, which offends a lot of black women who are very insecure. And they have a problem with this. Okay? And this is your rank and file black woman. Because remember, and I always say this, your most beautiful black women are not as concerned with this because they're too busy looking at their options of men that want them. If anything, they just have a problem with getting the men that they like to stop messing with other women. That's like their main concern, because they getting the men that they like. They just not getting the men that they like to behave the way that they want them to behave. But across the board, when you look at the black woman, on average, most of them are obese. Let's keep it. This is statistically proven. So we're talking about facts. Most of them are obese. So body-wise, they're not competing with Sydney Sweeney. Okay? Most of them are even, and the overwhelming majority of them are overweight. The average black woman weighs 188 pounds and growing. They're going to be 190 plus. There's no doubt about it, because among that group that's averaging that weight, you still got a large number of the baby boomer women that are still alive, and they tend to not be as overweight as maybe the silent generation or the Gen Xers, the current grandmas or the current, aunties of this generation. And you can see this when they have reunions with some of these like dance teams from these HBCUs. They actually have like 20-year, 25-year reunions at a lot of these school games, these rivalry games, Jackson State versus Grambling and all that, or Grambling versus Southern and TSU versus Prairie View. You see the aunties that used to be good-looking women they used to be the dancers back in the early 2000s, late 90s, and you see them now, they're big mamas. They're big women now, okay? Meanwhile, their male counterparts are, they the uncles that the young women are still dealing with. You got the 45-year-old uncles, the Salt and Pepper Gang. You got the unks. Why do you think that unk term is going around among the young women? A lot of young women, not majority, but a lot of young women in their 20s, they like uncles. Okay? And it's not even just for the money. They just like their personality, their confidence, their ability to storytell, their ability to teach them something that a youngster can't do. A lot of older men are stronger than these young guys. These guys out here bird chesting. So these young women, they be liking unks. Okay? Now you got some aunties out there to go get their BBL and they hit the gym, and they might get some young, might get a little. There's not as many Dreas around as they are like a Mike Rashid type equivalents. Okay? It's not the same. Trust me. So now when you're talking about the insecure, so what happens is these type of situations breed the insecurity. And this kind of builds off of even the energy that is still circulating, the kinetic energy that's still in motion with the rivalry between Angela Reese and Caitlin Clark. Now, that situation was where the black women were like, oh, Angel Reese is prettier than Caitlin. So that they couldn't say that Angel Reese was better in basketball than Caitlin Clark, because we know that's not true. Caitlin Clark is one of the greatest female college basketball players of all time. Definitely probably top 5. She's up there with the likes of like a Cheryl Miller, and Diana Taurasi and other ones, other female basketball players that were like amazing college basketball players. Your Candace Parkers. This is more recent history, but there's a lot of them. But she's definitely like in that top 5, right? Probably top 3 college. So she came in with a lot of fanfare from those that like basketball, and of course those that look at her as like a role model. And at the end of the day, role models are going to fit more of your ethnic, racial background. That just is what it is. That's just how people, look at things. Can it be cross-sectional, cross-racial? Yes, it definitely can. I mean, and that you can see that in a lot of male sports where there's where you have other races look up to a particular athlete in a sport, regardless of what their race is. They might still look up to them or be a fan of theirs. And men are more likely to do that. Women are actually like, they have this insecurity of looking up to a woman that may be of another race because they're trying to mate guard their men, and they don't want that woman to be so desirable to their own men. And you got some women, they're just so fine, they're not as insecure. They don't find that woman to be a threat. But I think the Sydney Sweeney thing, I think what really roused up a lot of black women is that Sydney Sweeney is a good-looking young white woman. Now, is she a baddie? Is she like an 8+? No. I'll give her, I think I've seen a couple of pictures. I haven't seen like her walk. I ain't seen her white girl swag on the carpet. Maybe she got that white girl swag, like your girl that was in that did the movies with Will Smith. The one from Australia. I keep forgetting her name, but you probably know who I'm talking about. If you know, put the name in the comments if you can recall if I don't get it. But the one that did the Barbie movie, because there is such thing as a white girl swag, bro. It's different. So I don't know if she got that going on. She might have the subjective and objective qualities on 10. Maybe her looks is on 7, but maybe her swag is on 10. So I don't know. I mean, she's an actress, so they got to be charismatic in front of that camera. So, and maybe that's her appeal that she kind of has with her fan base. And so now they can't run with, Beyonce's batter, but black women can try and run with that, but I don't think. Let me tell you this, bro, and this is just the reality. And I know this because I know white dudes, bro. You know what I'm saying? I went to high school with them. I went to a very diverse high school. I literally grew up with these. I knew what kind of women that they liked because I grew up with them. I went to college. I went to a big time PWI. When I say big time, I'm talking about big time. If you want to talk about big time PWI, you're talking about the school that I went to, bro, in college. Big time. So I know what they like. And let me tell you this. 90 to 95% of white dudes, if they walked into a club or a bar and they saw a Sydney Sweeney looking chick and a Beyonce looking chick, they're choosing the Sydney Sweeney looking one. That's their type. Black women can think that they can try and promote this Beyonce is the baddest thing walking the earth. And listen, I'm telling you, somebody that literally ran into Beyonce growing up in Houston. Like literally grew up in the same side of town. Okay. I would see her even before she was famous because her and my mom sometimes frequented the same hairstylist. There was a point when my mom used to get the finger waves. My mom used to get the finger waves back in the early 90s. Okay. And there was a salon, I want to say it was off of Westheimer. It was like in a nice area of town. High end, owned by a black woman. And she was known for doing very good finger waves. Okay? Well, anyway, so when you got this situation like that, this is where the rubber meets the road with the rivalry between black women and white women. And the rivalry is really one-sided. Because whenever you think about a rivalry, rivalries usually don't start off as a mutual hate. It usually starts off with one side either envying or hating the other. In this case, we know there is a historical tension between black women and white women that goes back to the plantation. Now, when the civil rights movement happened, isn't it interesting that a Sydney Sweeney looking woman in the form of Gloria Steinem was able to convince black women to leave black men? Think about that for a second. So if you don't think that white women don't have like a level of pull and control over black women in terms of their being able to pick on their insecurity and use that against them, because those type of women, and Gloria Steinem understood this very well. Gloria Steinem understood this very well when she was taught by the CIA. She understood that black women have low self-esteem, and if you can make them feel like equal women, you can compliment them and tell them how pretty they are, they'll listen to everything you got to say, and they will try and please you through doing what you're suggesting them to do. And it worked. She was able to get Angela Davis. Angela Davis went from a fro to, getting her hair straightened, and the rest is history. So they're like the leader. They're the trendsetter for black women. Black women want to be like them. That's the difference between black men and black women, is that black men will do their own thing. They'll develop their own style. They'll switch up whatever hairstyles in for themselves. They don't care. They're not going to go out there and try and be like so-called white men. They're just not. Even when they, even to a certain degree, when they go into white spaces, a lot of black men still maintain their own identity. You know? So, but black women, there's always this fight internally with how they feel about themselves, and especially in relation to white women, because they kind of think white women have this like amazing like advantage over them when they really don't. When it comes to black men, but what it is they're battling for the eyes of Mr. Cartwright, man, Mr. Clean. You know, the unblemished one, the one that is without fault before the world, man. You know, he can do no wrong. You know, Mr. Clean can do no wrong. He ain't got no faults, man. The white man is the one, man. He could do whatever he wanted. If he says it, it happens. So a lot of times that's really that subconscious, and you could actually look this up with dating statistics from dating apps. They actually showed that non-white women prefer white men over their own men. This is statistically proven, and this is with a large data sampling of data, not small, a large sampling of data. Okay, and they based it off of like how black women responded to white men, how they would go out of the ways to message white men, and they would respond to message from white men more than other races of men. And all races of women were doing this. So this is a pattern of behavior that was found among Asian women and among Latino women as well. So we know that they're trying to seek the validation of them. And this goes back even with what I was saying with the whole Nicolandria situation. Okay? Go back to that video. Why you think black women are promoting that so much? I mean, heavily promoting it. Heavily promoting it. I mean, I've seen women that there's a particular female, and I think I might have used her video. She's a single mother though, but nonetheless, she's absolutely gorgeous. Like she's fine, but she's so caught up in this. I'm like, damn, you could, if it wasn't for the child looks wise, she can get damn near any man she want of any race. You know what I'm saying? And she's still obsessed with this. Like, why is this such a big deal for you? You know why? Because it's a sign of white validation. And white validation is more important to black women than the validation from black men. I'm telling you, it's worth its weight in gold to them to be validated by a white man. And what is hindering that? What kind of hurts that? What kind of prevents that in their mind is the competition. It's the white woman. She's preventing me from being seen by white men. Because black women deep down inside know that they're going to get themselves a white man, especially a white man that's considered highly desired. They have to beat out Becky. They got to beat out Becky with the good hair. Because that's what Sydney Sweeney represents. She represents Becky with the good hair. Okay? And that's the main rivalry. So whenever they see a black woman is able to get what they perceive or think to be a good-looking white guy, a white man that's desirable, even desirable, especially desirable by his own woman, and then she's able to win that victory is multifaceted. It says, hey, black man, I don't need you. I got a white man. That's one. It also says, I'm validated because a white man likes me. And also a white man likes me even though he has access to his own white woman. He chose me over them. So they look at it as a complete victory. That means all the white women on the planet, he didn't want none of them, but he wanted me. And that is the ultimate ego boost to a black woman. The ultimate. That is the ultimate ego boost to a black woman. You will never be able to talk. As a black man, you can never provide that level of validation to a black woman. especially a black woman that's seeking that type of validation, you can forget about it. Because guess what? And I'm telling you this, it's not even, when you think that there's black women out there, they're not, their mind and ego is not concerned with that type of validation. They don't care about that. They like, oh, they don't mind. I don't care about that. But there's a subset of them that still want that validation. Okay, you think Carrie Hilson cares if white? You think that Carrie Hilson cares if like in her prime, of course. You think she cares if white dudes are checking for her in mass? Nah. A woman like Carrie Hilson is only concerned that brothers want her. That's it. And you can go down the list of a lot of different women that would be like, psh, they don't really care about that. That stuff don't concern them. That stuff is not even part of like what they're even looking for, bro. You know? So that's kind of what it is, man, in mass. Okay? So in mass, they're not even really checking for this is a very interesting psychoanalysis when you really look at this situation, bro. Because this Sweeney versus Beyoncé stuff is weird, but you know, the clapback, you know, a lot of this is the thing people got to understand. You cannot expect a one-way street of a narrative before it comes crashing back on you, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of their stances are very weak. They don't really hold weight, and the song that has a stronger argument will always make you look stupid the more you fight against them. And this is a battle that black women got to understand. You're not going to win this battle. You're not going to win the battle when Beyonce is clearly like, you know, either dyeing her hair or wearing blonde wigs, and she doesn't even switch it up. Like, she's consistently on this like path of doing that. She's not going back to her brown hair. She's not doing that. She's not wearing her natural self. Like, you're not going to win that, bro. And then on the backdrop of the whole Cowboy Carter and the controversy surrounding that, which I think was unfair, because at the end of the day, you know, country influence was due to, you know, the original, you know, black folk playing on the banjo, man. Okay? So, I mean, there's a lot of history with that. And I think the thing about a lot of white people either don't know or don't care to know the history of country and where it came from, or its origin and its roots, and how over time black people kind of were pushed out of that genre, you know, and that happens through control of label and media, radio, where they say, hey, listen, we're only going to want these type of faces and these type of individuals to promote this particular style of music because we like it that much. We're going to take it for ourselves, and that's kind of what happened, you know, to where, you know, for a long time, you know, and you know, if someone grew up as a, you know, listening to country, inspired by it, like Beyonce, and knows the origins of it, she's allowed to do an album and do a country album and do a country tour. You know, it means like Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber was doing the R&B music and R&B tours, and he was really a pop artist. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, man. And he ain't the creator of the genre. So yeah, we gotta understand exactly like these type of situations, man. They be real funny style, bro. They really be funny style when you look at it. But let me know what you think, man. I'm gonna I don't know if I'm gonna do any research. If something comes across my way and if this escalates and I see something, maybe I'll address it. But let me know what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next episode.